Good evening. I'm Father Russ Carmichael, and this is Street Talk. Thank you always, you wonderful people that follow me and allow us into your living room or wherever you're watching from. I want to thank you. I want to make sure we say hello to everybody. Bobby is home with Darren, I'm sure, watching the show. I didn't say hello to you last week. I'm sorry. Okay, but sometimes I forget, okay? And all our people who are hurting and that we're praying for, I won't say the names, but we have quite a few people that need a lot of prayers. So all of you that pray for me, and I pray for you, I need more prayers than anybody. Please say a prayer. We're really pleased that Andy, Senator Maynard, is doing well and back in the saddle and working hard. So all that's good stuff. And let me see, across from me is sitting Don Cotton, my co-host, and I just wanted to ask him, we got Michael Passero is going to be on with us. Do you remember the date? That's March, right? And
yeah, I think it's the 27th?
7th?
No, the 20th.
The 20th? I believe it's
20th.
the 20th? Okay. I got to check that. Michael's going to be back on with us. Next week we have
Carol in Vermont.
And Dennis
Bradley.
Bradley, yeah, right. So we have great shows with them. So we'll be back talking about, Carolyn was with the NAACP. I love those shows. I want all our friends to turn into that. Tonight, I got a return guest, Representative James Maroney, except poor James.
Former representative.
Right? I'm telling you, he's another one of these guys that didn't listen to Father. Father is a Boston politician that knows you got to play dirty. Mike Passero tries to get me and stop me from playing dirty because of Mr. Finuzio. But Mr. Finuzio is dirty, and I don't want him to be mayor. And to win, I try to tell everybody, you got to be dirty. And nobody believes me. And our only friends that lost, Dominic, were the guys like James, Paul, that were honest, forthright, and didn't play dirty. But God bless you.
Thank you.
Oh, God, okay. But we'll help you if you decide to run next time. We'll come down and you don't have to throw any mud. I'll do all the throwing. Right. I'm saying. Tonight, I did want, as I don't have you here as a rep, but I have you here because we're going to talk about education and a few other things, okay? And I would like you to tell my audience really what you do. You're a businessman, and yeah.
Yeah, no, thanks for the introduction. Dominic, thanks for having me back. It's always great to see you. And Father Russ, thanks for having me back on the show. Just a little bit, I guess, about myself. I run a business in Milford called First Choice College Placement. We work with students on SAT and ACT prep and getting them ready for college, basically. We work through, primarily we focus on test preparation and the other things. We're starting to do more things, I guess, through community service in terms of the financial aid. We ran a free FAFSA filing program for families this past year at the Milford Library that we're hoping to expand throughout the state.
Is that the one where you help them find the grants and other things that the student might use to get their finances for school? Is that the kind of program it is?
Yeah, the FAFSA stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. You have to file that to be considered for all federal student aid, but also the state aid through the governor's scholarship. You have to file your FAFSA by February 15th. And so we ran a program this year as a test in the Milford Library. We had about 12 families who came in and just walked them through all aspects of filing the FAFSA. They left that night with their FAFSA filed, and so they were all set. Again, FAFSA, I get caught up in the acronyms, but that's the financial aid form, the federal financial aid form.
No, the reason I asked you is because when my daughter, my youngest daughter, not all the other ones, was looking at schools and stuff like that and financial aid. I thought she was going to go to a regular school. I didn't know she'd end up in a military situation at the time. Okay, so we were looking at all different types of grants and stuff like that because I had made a deal with my ex-wife. My ex-wife had paid for my my other daughter. She was going to do that one, and my obligation was to make sure that Angie got through college, and
Gee, you worked that one, right, didn't you?
wow, I'll tell my audience I scored on that one. That was a serious score. I lucked out. You better believe it, right? I don't know where I got from.
I'm surprised you weren't having her out on the boat at like 15. Hey, honey, how do you like the boats out there? I hear the Coast Guard's real nice.
Well, she applied for the Naval Academy. For the Naval, she got accepted to the Naval Academy first. I mean, that's a whole story in and of itself. But I did have some assistance on local grants. I was out in Michigan, so I know nothing about this stuff out there. And I had a friend who had similar, I guess, organization like you do, and told me where to go to get the grants and how to apply, and helped us apply for certain things. So when Angie did finally go, I mean, no, she obviously, because she got a scholarship. She got the scholarship. She qualified for the Naval Academy and the Coast Guard, and she chose the Coast Guard over the Naval Academy. We would have made her a Marine, but and of course that's a huge scholarship. But along with that, because she was she was outstanding athlete and all the other stuff, she got all these little kind of grants that help with little stuff, $1,000 here, $500 there. I mean, I ended up paying for her. I paid $4,000 for her college education. That was for her computer. I'm sure there was a lady who would love to have hung me by a tree. Okay, but
I think that's probably why you're divorced from her in the first place.
But so that's the kind of okay.
That's as far as the business end of what I do is the test preparation.
Okay.
And we used to, as part of our business, families would hire us to do help them with their financial aid.
Okay.
Although now I really just wanted to focus on the test preparation for the business, and we're starting to offer the programs, the free financial aid FAFSA filing program, which I'm actually hoping gets picked up by more areas throughout the state.
Okay.
Because there's a website called Social Programs That Work, and it details all different social programs in different areas, and
Right.
looking at the cost benefit. And one of the things is doing a FAFSA filing program like that. It's been proven to increase persistence towards a degree and to help kids go to college and stick it out longer. And so I think that a lot of the people who really need the help aren't getting it. And so just trying to make more of that help available. As far as the small scholarships, those you don't need. The FAFSA, or the Federal Financial Aid Form, call it Financial Aid Form,
right.
to hopefully not confuse people with it.
Right.
But the Financial Aid Form is from the schools, the federal government, and the state government.
Okay.
The local scholarships, people really need to go looking at the local organization.
Organizations, right. Yeah.
I'm chair of the Devon Rotary Scholarship Committee, and we're going to give 19 scholarships this year. The Milford Chamber of Commerce, I think, is giving 23 scholarships this year. But so in most towns, you look at your Rotaries. There's the community foundations,
Right.
the Kiwanis clubs, the Lions
Well,
clubs.
a lot of parents don't realize that those organizations give out grants and stuff like that. Sometimes you see them advertised in the paper, but I knew nothing years ago. I mean, I didn't. I learned about them through obviously an individual who's much into what you're doing. When you say you help them, you do tutoring,
Yes, we
direct tutoring.
We either do one-on-one tutoring or classes.
Classes.
Yeah, we do
Okay.
either.
Okay, so you run classes for the SATs and the
We run classes for the SAT, and then we do private tutoring for the SAT, ACT,
ACT.
APs,
Okay.
SAT2s, any test really.
any test, even
For
your college.
We really work mainly with high school
You may
students.
high
Yeah,
school,
we
okay.
have, and pretty much any math or science a student can come in, or, the reading, English reading
Okay,
as well.
so you do lean towards the math science side.
For the subject in school, you find that it's just more where the demand is. You'll have more
Well, see,
parents
a lot-
calling in for the
Yeah, well,
chemistry than you do for your English.
A lot of people don't realize, and we were just talking outside, and we were talking about magnet schools and stuff like that. I mean, if you're looking for, in educating your child, okay, right now, at this time in our history, the place you should be looking is the math science side.
We're looking in STEM, right? The science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and really you're looking, as a state, Connecticut is making a huge investment in University of Connecticut to expand the STEM, the number of graduates in STEM. Pretty much, if you're graduating with a degree in engineering, you have a job, right? We don't have enough engineers to fill the jobs we have for engineers.
Right.
Computer coding is another thing.
Yeah, right, you're talking about the coding and stuff like that. This is across the country. See, this is one of the things that a lot of people don't understand. When you're looking, and for your child to be educated, okay, you need to be looking at a 30-year outsource from the time they graduate to the time they're, hopefully they're, well, with mine was only 20, but on this one, then she can have her second career, God bless her, and pay for Dad's retirement. But
It's a pretty cheap $4,000 investment, wasn't it?
Good return on that investment. Yeah, you're going to get this.
she's a good kid. You see what I drive, right? That's one of the things that parents, especially parents that haven't gone to college or stuff like that, are new, okay, to things that they need to understand, that you need to be looking in those fields that are going to project out and going to provide your child with the job or career or whatever long term.
You're right. I mean, one of the things is looking at job opportunities, right? And you see too many kids that graduate from college, with an undergraduate degree and $70,000 to $100,000 in private loan debt, and they're making a rent payment before they've left their parents' house, right, to pay off those college loans. The other thing, though, to consider is, a lot of the top jobs now weren't in existence 10 years ago, and so one of the keys they talk about is learning a living, in that we don't necessarily want to train people for a specific trade or a specific one specific area, but we want to give them the ability to learn and to adapt as things come down the road and change. But you talk about the computer coding a little before. I mean, that's an area that they're predicting over the next 10 years. There are going to be 1.4 million jobs in computer coding, and we're going to have 400,000 graduates to fill those jobs. So it's a coming crisis.
It's a coming
in a way.
crisis, right? Yeah. A lot of people don't understand those things, and that's what you got to look for. I mean, obviously, math science is where my daughter leaned. There was no her mother's. God bless her, even though I divorced her. She's a geniac and no common sense, but off the table in math science, top 3%. Okay, Angie's top 3%. I mean, very, they're out there. I got one of these scary kids that, in some cases, is smarter than me. Only in some areas. Okay, but that was the area that you need to be in. And the adaptability, a lot of people don't understand that adaptability, because when you go through the math science and stuff, you open up to all kinds. When you're talking engineering and all that stuff, of course, you're talking medicine too, and so you're cutting across the board. And of course, in medicine, I mean, we know, everybody's getting old. I'm not a baby. The baby boomers are right behind me. So I'm on that cusp, okay? And those are where all the jobs, taking care of those old cronies and stuff like that, and the new advancements in medicine.
Well, people are living longer, and I think one of the things we're going to see with the baby boom generation is they're not going to want to go off quietly, and they're going to want to have a quality of life just the way they've lived, the whole time. They've been a very revolutionary, exciting generation, and so they're going to want to be active and involved, and that's why you're seeing things changing. Throughout our society.
Exactly right. You look at the old folks the old folks' organization is one of the biggest in the country. Their voting is, they're voters too, okay? And you're right, we kick and scream and stuff like that. They kick and scream. My brother's a baby boomer, but that is right. They're a revolutionary type of group. Okay, that demand, not about asking, they demand. I paid, I did my stuff, I work. I'm still working. Even though I was a bad guy when I was young and stuff like that, I worked a lot. I never stopped working. So I want what I put in, and I want my fair share. And I think that's what we're going to see.
And I think they're going to be very active, and I think the medical technology is enabling people. I mean, look at it, you have a knee replacement, you're walking the next day now. And people, with the 3D printing, and they're printing joints and printing prosthetic hands and different things.
It's amazing. It is amazing. But the coding thing is, that seriously interested me because I was Khan Academy, which I'm sure you know about, okay? I had been talking to somebody several weeks ago about that. They were talking about training the kids on there for the coding and stuff like that. Exactly what is that?
Basically, coding represents writing the instructions that power the digital world. And so coding can be a variety of computer languages. Dominic and I were talking before about, when we were younger, we learned BASIC.
Yeah.
Beginner's All-Purpose Symbolic Instruction Code.
Which I have to tell you, Russ. I wrote up a program about how to do a search for stolen cars. So you were working
Did his
on
name
that.
come up?
I was
That was Bobby's.
Well, he can steal them, but he can't drive them.
He's the worst driver in the world. No, but I was. You know the story. I was big in stolen cars early on, way back in my career. Yeah, but I took them right off the lots that I worked on. I was selling them all right, but I was selling them to Papa Doc. That was, my God. I think half of Ford Motors in my day were all car thieves, and we were not,
So the coding that they do now, I know we were talking about BASIC, if-thens and...
Yeah, a lot of the Boolean logic, and a lot of the coding, I mean, you're talking about Khan Academy. There are a lot of free resources and that can be aggregated, for the students. One of the big ones is code.org. They run a program called An Hour of Code, which I believe had 15 million students over 180 countries last year, over 5 days, participated in the Hour of Code. And just the other day, I was up in Hartford testifying, and Senator Schlossberg, our senator, and Representative Fleischman, the chairs of the Education Committee, were nice enough to draft the concept of requiring computer coding for all middle school students. And it's something I would really like to see us do. And it doesn't have to be expensive because, as you mentioned, Khan Academy is free, Code.org is free, Scratch from MIT is free, Edutopia is free. And what I would like to see is that we require every middle school and high school student do a program similar to the Hour of Code. So they'd have a few hours of an online resource. It could be existing, it could be something that is created aggregating all of the existing resources, but just so that they have exposure to the computer coding.
Right, yeah, exactly. Now you are, when you were in the legislature, you sponsored a bill, right?
No, this actually, I learned about it and got interested in it after it was too late to put forward a bill. Okay. So they put forward the bill for me this year.
Oh, this year.
But I did get interested in hearing representatives from Yale University talk about how they have companies that are started through the Yale Entrepreneurial Institute, and once they get venture funding, they're told that you have to leave Connecticut. And it's not because of the cost of doing business, it's because they say there's no entry-level computer coding talent and not enough, not no, but not a deep enough bench of computer coding talent in the state. And so they're giving these companies multi-million-dollar valuations, and they're told you have to take your employees to Cambridge. So you're taking a Yale company, moving it into Harvard.
Moving it to Harvard.
Yeah, which is,
wow,
I find
yeah,
personally insulting. Or you send them out to,
I didn't, well, I went there, but it wasn't I went through the building. I lectured there a few times, too. Yeah, my brother's a Harvard guy.
Oh, he is?
Yeah, yeah.
So is my brother-in-law.
My younger brother. Yeah, no. Now, a lot of people don't understand. What you're talking about is you develop the business and entrepreneurial situation here. You do not have enough people to support your business, okay? So you got to move up to Cambridge, Mass, or something like that where you have the resources. Exactly what happened to Honeywell and some other case. They went out to Arizona, cheap labor. Well, they got out to Arizona, and when they got out to, this was years ago. This was early, mid-70s, 80s, okay? So they get out there, set up shop there because it's cheap. They think they're going to get cheap labor. Well, guess what? They didn't have the college resources out there, so all the companies that went, they failed there. They had to come back to Boston and Massachusetts, around centers where your educational situation is, and that's why Connecticut, instead of being a job failing state, we should have more jobs than anybody else.
Oh, and yeah, right. You're absolutely right.
I mean, I don't understand this. We're 50th. We are the 50th. We don't develop any job. We haven't developed a job in 20 years. I mean, it doesn't make any sense with Yale here. It's down, as far as I'm concerned, it's down the road, 25 minutes from here, So Harvard and all the schools that developed around Harvard and Cambridge and all that, I don't understand why we are not equally the center.
And it's not necessarily true that we're not creating jobs. We have been creating private sector jobs. It's just as government revenues have dropped, we've been laying off government worker jobs. I think that we are doing a lot of things right here. You look at biotech, and you look at what is our relative advantage? An educated workforce, right? What are the things that we have? So what are the industries that need an educated workforce that we really need to build up? You can look at, we have the infrastructure for insurance. I think we have the most actuaries per capita. We have the actuarial talent. We have an infrastructure here. And so you want to look at the captive insurance market that Vermont is leading the country in. And we've passed some laws last year to make Connecticut more friendly for the captive insurance, which is, in a way, it's self-insuring risk for larger companies. Every Fortune 500 company has a captive. There are 17 Fortune 500 companies headquartered in the state of Connecticut. Right now, we only have 4 captives, right? But good news, Aetna announced they're going to bring their captive back from offshore back to the state of Connecticut, because we do have, again, we have the talent here to make it a good place to run a captive.
Okay, if you got the actual.
So you look at captive insurance, biotech, right? State of Massachusetts has 42,000 jobs in biotech. Connecticut has 14,000 jobs in biotech. Although when you look at its importance to the economy, Connecticut, it's 19 billion. Massachusetts, I believe it's 38 billion to the economy. So it's twice as much to their economy, but they have 3 times as many biotech jobs. But the investments we've made in Jackson Labs, Yale getting more involved with Alexion building that beautiful headquarters in downtown New Haven. You're hearing more of, and I have a friend who's a developer who wants to start building apartments in downtown New Haven because biotech companies want to come here. They want to be near Yale. They want to be near Jackson Labs.
Right, exactly. That's, yeah, I mean, and I get mad at people shooting at the governor, okay, because he is trying to do his best that he can, given the investments that he knows he has to make to develop all this stuff that's coming, And with Yale as the center of things, I mean, I always lean to that. Well, I grew up in Newton, Harvard,
Yeah.
So I grew up in that area where you watch the development and stuff like that you could see all the time. Development is always going, always generated. New things are always coming, new jobs and that type of resource. And that's how I see That's how I see Connecticut.
And that's really, Massachusetts is the model for that, with the Boston area, with all of the colleges there and the educated workforce and that information. I mean, as we shift towards an information economy, we should be more at the forefront than we are. And
Which kind of goes back, I mean, I know we left off with talking about the coding. The coding's not just learning how to interface with the computer, it's also a way of thinking.
And yeah, you're exactly right. It's problem solving. And you and I were talking about this a little before, but when I testified, 3 members of the Connecticut State Association of Computer Science Teachers were up there to testify. And we were waiting. You've been up there to testify, so you wait a long time. You get a long time to talk with people. So I think we were up there about 10 hours waiting to testify approximately. And so I was talking with one of the guys, and he was saying that, well, one, it cost his school $0 to implement the coding because there was an NSF grant and other grants to train him to teach these. He was a history teacher before. But the other thing he was talking about, he has special education students taking his coding class. He has other students taking the coding class and then seeing, wow, I can do something. And then it's training them in a way to think, into problem solve, and something that we want to go towards, problem solving in the Common Core. And they do I think it's the piece of the international testing, and the U.S. is actually, we're near the bottom in problem solving, something we used to be up at the top. And that's what we're known for, is that we innovate, right? And that's
exactly right.
The same Yankee ingenuity. In
Exactly
New
right.
England, we
Exactly.
innovate.
Innovation, right.
Well, I always think like, I mean, it teaches you 2 skills. I mean, debugging is, deductive reasoning, but actually the design is sort of like inductive. You got to think of it from the inside out to the product that you want to get to, which I think is one of the skills that isn't very well taught in our education system.
And I think that the other thing is, we've talked about the Boolean logic and the if-then statements and trying to figure out how actions lead to your next action. And as you say, kind of thinking it through a few steps. And I know for myself, I think one of the best classes I took in college was a philosophy of logic class and learning logic. And I think that helped my writing. And that it helped me to present an argument.
Well, one of the things we know, people don't realize how fast the world's going to change. Everything's going to be digital. Everything's going to. I mean, we're not talking 30 years. We're talking 10. We're talking 5 years advancement. It's going to put people right out of systems. If you're not starting to be educated in these things, I mean, I can't even use the foolish phone I got. I mean, you got to be an engineer to use that stupid thing. I mean, these young people, if you fall behind rather rapidly, the distance is going to be worse than it is now. And right now, it's not good.
Right. Oh, yeah. You look at the unemployment rate for the people who don't have a college diploma versus those who do have a college diploma. And the one good thing that you've seen is, I think the unemployment rate, I mean, for people with a college diploma now is way down.
Down.
And they're actually nervous that we're not going to have enough college graduates now to fill the jobs that they need. The prediction is, I think by 2020, 70% of jobs will require some form of a post-secondary. So it doesn't mean a bachelor's degree, but an associate's degree, an advanced manufacturing certificate, it could be.
Right.
And so that's why, in many ways, the president's plan to offer free community college, it's a required investment in our workforce. I think there may be other ways to achieve the same ends that wouldn't cost as much, but it's basically an associate's degree.
I'm watching you over there, Dominic. What about it?
No. I think of, look, my father was one of the first people, in his generation. He got a bachelor's degree.
Right.
And back in his day when he got his degree, which was, in the late 40s, 1950s, a bachelor's degree was the equivalent of like having a master's degree or a doctorate
PhD
now. And what they are. And the educational requirements, back at that time were high school would get you through. If you didn't make it through high school, you were going to have some labor job of some variety, but those jobs aren't around in the same way that they used to be. So I think it's almost like a high school diploma is an associate's now. And I think having that free to everybody is what's going to bring up our economy. I think this is so important to be able to do, and such a good investment.
No, I see. I'm free education like
Yeah.
England, Scotland still has it. I was going to go back. If Dominic would lend me the 60 grand, finish my residency and you could call me a doctor next year. I mean, it is really, I happen to be, I really believe education should be free. Okay, well, it's not, and I got to live with it, but the investment to our country to have at least associate's degree, at least up to that level with this stuff is free. I mean, the student loans are killing people. I mean, nobody should have to pay that kind of money. I mean, we pay taxes, okay? People get mad at me and everything. I don't mind paying taxes for three things. I don't mind paying my taxes for the military. I would never mind paying taxes for health care. I believe in universal health care. And I wouldn't mind paying taxes for free education. Those three things, I think, are the most important that we need for the survival of our country and the survival of citizenry. You need your health care, okay, and you need an education to go on. Everybody in the country needs an education. Used to be the way people believed. That we gave free education for the industrial world to teach, so people got a free education so they could go in, push a button, start, and to manufacture, and we basically became the greatest industrial nation in the world.
Yeah, I think,
no question about it.
I think you're right. It was the creation of public education and public school education.
Exactly
and that
right.
investment
They did it. Yeah.
that had pushed us forward. And in many ways, like you look at the Billy Joel song, the promises our teachers made if we worked hard, if we behaved. And
Right.
those promises aren't there anymore.
No, they're
right? It's
not.
not enough to
No,
just
it's not
work
enough.
hard and behave and get a high school degree. You need to be able to go beyond. And I mean, I'm realistic. I understand that the fiscal situation is such that we can't necessarily give the free college, or we have to look at ways, creative ways to get
way
people
to get
through
it
the education.
to however we got to do. Well, we don't know how to gain resources today. I mean, that's why we got serious problems. Our governor is knee deep in finances. Obviously, he's probably
Keeps finding mistakes in his math too. I'm starting to wonder if those outside companies should have gone through Common Core and figured out if they could do the new forms of math.
I was wondering if those were from the Department of Social Services moved over
Well, no.
to the accounting system.
We can't screw with them too much. We've already done that this week.
I know that. I mean, he's knee deep in financial trouble. It's both administrations got us this way to where we are. We owe people a lot of money that shouldn't have the sweetheart deals they made. Most of the people really don't understand why we're in such bad shape. You do, because you've been up there and you're a rep. I do, because I study this stuff and I know that financially the unions have wanted everything they could way back when, and now they're trying to figure out how they can take care of their members now, because they paid off all those members way before. I'm a Teamster. Railroad pays me. In my retirement, thank God, I love Jimmy Hoffa. If I didn't have Jimmy Hoffa, I would have been really hurting. I wouldn't have got nothing. I mean, I really went to, because I was a bad person. I went back to work late, okay, because of my early career. I was a Teamster. I was in the IBEW and stuff like that. If I had not been in there, I could be ousted in the street. So I collect a little more than most people do from their retirement, okay? And I still obviously work until my daughter can take it.
Until that 4,000 pays off. It's like a lottery ticket.
Like the lottery. It was better than the lottery. God bless them, yeah. And, where were you in all this, Dominic?
Hey, my whole education, my undergrad, I mean, obviously, I did it at UConn down in Stamford before Stamford campus was a nice campus. My whole college education was somewhere in the realm of about $8,000 for my undergrad degree. It says University of Connecticut on it. Nobody asked me, like, did you go up to stores or did you get it down here? And then my graduate education was about $12,000. So, I believe in affordable education. I think certainly we need to realign what the needs of companies are around here to make those associate degrees worthwhile.
Worthwhile.
To companies, and not so that you're just getting, because usually when you get an associate's, it's almost like you're doing the basics of your bachelor's degree,
Right.
whereas
Foundational stuff.
yeah.
Well,
So
you
I
need
think you need
something
a good mixture of that so that you have something that you can do. But I think teaching the thinking skills and refining some of the writing skills and other things.
My fear is always, I don't want to see these schools where, come on, I'll teach you how to be a janitor. You know what I mean? They rip off all these people. Okay, I'm going to teach you to do this, teach you to do that. You spend a year in there and you get a certificate that
Well,
you did.
that's my big issue.
Scary.
Those are the for-profits.
The-
And you know what?
those
I
are
think-
for-profits, and I
I
don't
think
like that.
education is not-for-profit. There are
Exactly,
some things that
exactly.
go on in life, and they just need to be like not-for-profit.
Right.
And take out, this idea that we have to have some level of competition, or for-profit in order to make things great. It doesn't work for everything. It works for a lot of things. But I think there are certain industries where it should be not-for-profit.
Education's a public good.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to have private industry competing for a public good. And one of the things that you look at with the guarantee, and it's not a federal constitution, it's the State of Connecticut Constitution guarantees a free and appropriate education for every student. And there is an interesting,
That's in the Constitution?
in the state constitution.
In the state constitution?
Yeah, free and appropriate education.
Ooh, wow, I didn't know that.
It's not in
talking
the
through high
U.S.
school.
Constitution, yeah,
No,
through
it's
high
not.
school.
Through
but
through high school.
Through high school,
Yeah.
you're guaranteed the free and appropriate education.
Well, Massachusetts probably has that, too.
I would assume, I don't know,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I read a book, and it's, I can't remember, Philip Vollmer, Public Schools Can't Do It Alone. And he was talking about, going in saying, you need to run this more like a business, and going around telling the schools and saying that, you need to only do the best, release the best. And then so a teacher raised their hand in the audience, Mr. Vollmer, and what do you make? What's your business? Well, we make ice cream. Well, is your ice cream good? It's the best ice cream. Well, why is it the best ice cream? We only use the best blueberries, the best cream, the best sugar. She goes, well, we take them all, Mr. Vollmer. The rotten blueberries, the rotten cream, we take them all, and we have to educate them all. And so that's one of the things when you look at, and there are some good for-profit companies. I'm not saying, I don't mean to denigrate or with a broad brush, but you look in Philadelphia where they had privatized some of the schools, but not all of them, and then they looked at the test scores. Test scores of the privatized schools went up. The test scores of the schools that weren't privatized went up more. And so, again, it's hard to have a private entity for producing a public good.
Yeah,
It's a
exactly
little
right.
bit different. And you're right. I mean, we all benefit, right, from an education, and we benefit because if people are making a higher salary, right, they're paying more taxes.
They pay more taxes, exactly right. They pay more taxes, more people get the...
Well, I don't subscribe to, I guess, in certain industries, I don't subscribe to that Jack Welch sort of churn and burn. So he's like churning and burning, like, the bottom 20, 30%, like all the time.
Business concepts do not fit in
No.
certain even government, I get really angry with, even when you're running cities and stuff like that. You're dealing with people and not profit. I mean, when you're dealing with the safety and the good of people, the profit margin shouldn't be there. It's a distraction, because you're bringing up, again, you're bringing the public good up to a marginalized situation of money. Okay, and you're trying to buy it, and you can't buy it. I mean, it just doesn't work. It doesn't seem to work anyways. Charter schools, we were talking about charter schools. Okay, and how you deal with charter schools. Well, they're like private.
New London's about to open up a whole bunch of them. They're going to be building a whole bunch of charter
magnet
schools.
schools.
The magnet schools.
Well, I see. I understand the plan, and I understand what they're doing and why they want the attraction, and they're trying to solve the problem. I again do not believe that they have spent the time needed to understand what they're investing in. For some reason, I don't think somebody looked out the 30-year situation. I mean, you need to know demographics. You need to know what's going out 30 years. You need to know the industries that are going to be developed. Now, we know them at Yale. We know them at Harvard. We know them at MIT. Why the hell doesn't the rest of the whole place know? I mean, and that really disturbs me, because you're throwing money at stuff that may be useless. Yeah, okay, and you're frustrating people.
But I think you brought up when we were talking, obviously, the biggest part of the appeal for charter schools was.
Well, there are a couple of appeals. One is that the charter schools don't necessarily have to operate within the same rules that public schools have to, and so they're free to experiment more, and you'll see the longer day or other models, and they can get that and do that quicker.
Right.
The other thing in my mind, the best predictor of educational success is parental involvement. And in order to be in a charter school or to go to a magnet school, you have to have a parent who chooses to apply or chooses to send the student there, which, by that fact, says that they are interested in the educational success of their children. And so if you're around other kids whose parents want them to be there, the kids typically want to be there more. They're kids, so they don't necessarily want to be in school.
But
we have to be honest. But
is the hammer behind that. You and I totally agree on that. I mean, years in education, having 2 wives that were involved in education, and having a whole boatload of kids, okay, that I've been blessed. I've been for such a screw up as I was, I've been blessed with all my kids, all but one are a college graduate. The oldest one not, but he's a tradesperson. Basically, electronics, plumbing, stuff like that. He probably makes more money than anyone.
And he'll never be outsourced.
And he's never going to be outsourced, except for the youngest, who's obviously in the guard. He'll never make more than her, because she's an entrepreneur too. So besides, picking a great career that doesn't have her tied down with any student loans, or daddy tied down with finances, she ends up, doing well. But I've been lucky. I was lucky that all of them went to, college and got a degree and went into fields that they're not going to be outsourced. Most of them government fields, okay, and. One's a librarian, okay. But I remember at the time, though, as going up, that, I want to be an artist, and I have kids that talented artistically, too, a couple of them. And I said, well, art's nice, but, art's not going to pay you crap. So you can have your art as, what I did is, as electives and stuff like that. And I did that for them to make sure that skill that they developed at least stayed there. But they weren't going to. They had to, they had to find something that was going to, have a career and stuff like that. Most are math science kids. Okay.
But you made the serious investment in your kids. I know because you've talked about it. I know.
You've heard of it.
Yeah, I know. Well, I know, and I see because I know
Well-
James's son. I can see the investment that you make in him, not just through school, but his whole personality and demeanor and how socially he is so far ahead of the game in the way that he thinks. But that comes from parents that are involved and doing that.
Well, I didn't want any of them to end up like their father. Obviously.
Well, you were motivated from the young age. It wasn't what you wanted to go the roads. It was what you wanted to avoid.
I didn't want them to get in anything, and I was very blessed with that. I didn't want them, to end up as being a rebel or do prison or do anything else like that. It's what did somebody used to tell me? Oh yeah, the prisoner's kid becomes a priest. The priest kids become the police officer's priest becomes a criminal. You know what I mean? So but that was that was really part of the realistic thing, and it wasn't what I did in prison. Well, I learned I was dyslexic. I learned I was dyslexic in prison through the Harvard professors that said, yeah, you got a problem. I hated the English literatures class. Not my English class, not lit. But, okay, when I started to write. Well, they got specialists there because it was a big program and stuff like that. And they had the shrinks in there, and they had me tested and said, "Oh, we know what's wrong with you. You're dyslexic." Well, here I am in Walpole, going to these classes with Harvard professors. Now they find out my educational stunting my education was because of this dyslexia. So that's where I learned all about dyslexia and stuff like that, and I was fortunate to have, people who knew what the hell they were talking about, both Dr. Letfin Dr. Letfin, he invented the thing, and he was from MIT, I believe, at the time, and the other guy from Harvard, and and they said, "Oh, well, you
I'm sorry, you say that, and I just think the Optograb from The Jerk.
Professor Letfin.
I'm sorry, I couldn't help it.
Professor Letfin was partners with Timothy Leary, who did the LSD. They did but Professor Letfin invented the soft lens,
Oh, okay.
the contact lens, the soft contact lens. The guy was a scary guy, brilliant. I mean, he's one of those who has 35 people in the room and goes around in 2 minutes and remembers your name, the first thing, and the question, and the question you ask him, and then he'll come around and answer your question. Oh man, scary guy. I love the guy though.
So now you're doing because I know you do so many different things.
Yeah.
The higher education planning.
I'm on
Committee?
the Planning Commission for Higher Education for the State of Connecticut, and we just voted on a strategic plan for the state for higher education. And one of our goals is to increase the number of people with a degree, a post-secondary degree, to 70% of our population. Because, as I said before, by 2020, 70% of the jobs are going to require a post-secondary. The other, right now, it's just kind of broad goals, and in the next meeting, we're going to kind of divide in and see how you're going to accomplish these goals. Some of the other things we want to do is to reduce the indebtedness of our students from Connecticut to at least to the national average. We're above the national average in the average debt that our students come out with now, so that's another goal. And then we'll look. One of my personal goals would be to expand apprenticeships and getting more students in. You're getting companies to pay for the kids, and with their education, if you have an educational requirement each quarter, I think you need to take at least a week's worth of classes, and so to make sure that they're taking classes that could have college credit. So you can do an apprenticeship, finish that, and be at least a year towards an associate's degree. I would love to see us working on programs like that so that we're getting the companies helping to pay for the kids to get the apprenticeship.
Our unions used to be great with apprenticeship. You did that and stuff like that, and we lost a lot of that. Not completely, but we lost a lot of that.
Yeah, we don't have it, we're way behind where Germany is, but even behind
absolutely.
England. I think England has per capita 4 times more
Yeah.
of apprentices. So that's one way to try to get people into the advanced manufacturing through the apprenticeships. But there are even some of the healthcare jobs that can be apprenticed. And then looking at ways, part of the things they're going to talk about are how can we achieve these through tax policy, through tax credits, through financial aid, and I would like, and this is me, I'm talking as an individual now, not as representative of the commission, but looking at examining, taxes are a powerful way to motivate behaviors, right? If you look at tax-free week, right? Everyone wants to go out and shop tax-free week, but if you got a flyer in your mail for 6.35% off sale, you would throw it out. You wouldn't go out. But if you think, I'm not paying taxes, it's a great thing. And so how do you use that? 529 plans motivate people to save for college. Taxes do give you a benefit, but I don't know how much of a benefit is it. I think it's more the psychological. And so looking at, should we be giving companies tax credits for incumbent worker training, right? So to train their existing workers to increase their skills, improve their skills. And so they were saying, hey, we're going to partner with you. We understand this is important to the future of our state, so looking at ways to partner. But that's one of the things I'm involved in. I'm involved in the Education Foundation still. I'll be teaching a workshop tomorrow, which I have to design on for the Invention Convention, a free workshop for students in Milford. I'm helping to run a mini golf tournament in May. And
there you go.
I'll be back. I'm sure to tell you all the other stuff.
Also doing the Founders Walk.
Founders Walk, yeah.
For Milford, which is an area of because we recently had our
375th anniversary of the town.
And then there's some social, volunteer innovation programs that he's going to tell us about next time, because we're going to make sure that we have James on at least quarterly, so that he can come back and tell us all the different stuff that he's doing.
What's going on?
And then we're slowly going to infiltrate and convince him to go run again.
Absolutely. Like James, I really appreciate that you came in tonight. And again, you're going to be back on, Dominic, always. I wanted to, we can, again, Mike Passwell, I believe, the 20th. Okay, next week we got Carolyn Vermont and Dennis.
And then we got Melissa Zabran, who's ranking member on appropriations.
When do we have the boxing thing? Don't we have boxing? Okay, because Finozio chickened out with you, didn't he?
He did. 28th.
The 28th. Okay, we got the boxing people coming on.
Yep. My trainer for boxing.
Right.
because Finuzio didn't take me seriously that I was going to follow through on him anyway.
Well, not only that, he outsourced his, instead of having a trainer here in New London, he went to Rhode Island, like he does everything. He doesn't, he talks about loving New London, but he brings everybody in from other places.
Carpetbagger.
Thank you, Dominic. I like that. Thank you. All right.
Fighting Finuzio, come on.
We're ready to go. God bless you all, people. I'm going to take off, and poor Mary's wants to get out of here, and Mary Jane, okay, who is so wonderful with me and our show, and is the power behind the show. We love you all. Please pray for me. I'll pray for you, Dominic, and everybody else. We'll see you next week, okay? And they can run the street. God bless. Be safe.